By the year 2030, Poland will have more tanks than Germany, France, the UK, and Italy combined. Let that sink in. They will have one of the largest artillery forces on the planet and an army of 300,000 professional soldiers. For the United States, this buildup isn't just Poland's story. It's the shield American troops depend on to hold NATO's Eastern Front. In just a few years, they have gone from a mid-level military to a continental superpower. This isn't a slow upgrade. It's an emergency transformation fueled by a budget that is breaking all the rules in Europe. The thing is, they believe they have no other choice. And once you see what's happening on their borders, you'll understand the terrifying reason why. Let me tell you why this matters. For Poland, this isn't about politics. It's about geography. Just look at a map. To the northeast, they share a border with a small piece of Russia called Kaliningrad. But this isn't just any territory. It's one of the most militarized places on Earth. Think of it as a fortress, a Russian dagger pointed right at the heart of Europe. It's packed with Russia's Baltic fleet, advanced S-400 air defense systems, and Iskander missiles that can carry nuclear warheads. Just recently, Russia even moved in jets armed with hypersonic missiles, weapons that are incredibly hard to stop. But that's only half the story. To the east, Poland shares a 250-mile border with Belarus. For years, Belarus was a kind of buffer zone. Not anymore. Today, Belarus is, for all practical purposes, an extension of the Russian army. The country was a launchpad for the invasion of Ukraine, and now it's a permanent forward base for Russian troops, logistics, and even tactical nuclear weapons. Truth be told, Poland is now caught in a strategic pincer. It has a Russian fortress to the north and a Russian military base to the east. And right between them is the place where many people think a major conflict could start, the Suwalki Gap. It's a tiny 40-mile-long strip of land on the Polish-Lithuanian border. Here's the crazy part. This is the only land route connecting the Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia to the rest of their NATO allies. If Russia and Belarus ever decided to close that gap, 3 NATO countries would be completely cut off, making it almost impossible to reinforce them by land. It's NATO's ultimate weak spot, and this threat is not just theoretical. In September of last year, at least 19 Russian drones flew into Polish airspace, forcing airports to shut down and fighter jets to scramble. It was a direct test, a message from Moscow. At the United Nations, acting U.S. Ambassador Dorothy Shea warned that Washington would defend every inch of NATO territory. That wasn't just rhetoric. It was a reminder that America's security guarantees still stand, and that U.S. troops already on Polish soil would be part of that response. For Poland, the writing was on the wall. They had to get ready and fast. But the way they decided to prepare is something no one in Europe has ever attempted in modern history. So how do you defend yourself when you're trapped like this? Poland's answer was simple. Spend whatever it takes to build an army so massive and so powerful it would make anyone think twice. We are not talking about a small increase here. In 2024, Poland's defense spending exploded to $38 billion. That's over 4% of its entire economy. To put that in perspective, the United States spends about 3.5%. The target for next year is nearly 5%. What many people overlook is where that money is going. Over half of the entire budget is being spent on new equipment. This has turned Poland into the biggest buyer of military hardware in Europe, and their shopping list is staggering. From the United States, they are buying 366 of the legendary M1 Abrams tanks, the gold standard for NATO forces. They're getting nearly 100 AH-64 Apache attack helicopters, the most advanced in the world. To control the skies, they've ordered F-35 stealth fighters. And for long-range firepower, they're buying over 500 HIMARS rocket launchers, the same system that has been so effective in Ukraine. In Washington, President Trump assured Polish leaders that U.S. troop levels, currently about 8,200 soldiers, will not be reduced, signaling that America sees Poland as a cornerstone of NATO's eastern flank. But wait, it gets wilder. Poland knew that buying only from the U.S. could mean long waiting times, so they turned to another country that knows a thing or two about living next to a dangerous neighbor, South Korea. In a series of record-breaking deals, Poland placed an order for an incredible 1,000 K2 Black Panther tanks. They also bought nearly 700 K9 self-propelled howitzers, making their artillery force one of the largest on the continent. This isn't just buying weapons, it's buying mass and fast. This is a complete shift in the balance of power in Europe. But buying weapons from other countries is only a temporary fix. Poland learned a hard lesson from watching the war in Ukraine. You can have the best tanks in the world, but they are useless if you run out of shells. And that led to the most crucial part of their plan. Here's something you probably didn't know. The war in Ukraine has shown that a modern conflict consumes ammunition at a mind-boggling rate. Stockpiles that were supposed to last for years can be gone in months. Poland saw this and realized that relying on other countries for their bullets and shells was a huge vulnerability. So they launched a national mission to achieve what they call ammunition sovereignty. They are investing over $650 million to build brand new ammunition factories from the ground up. Right now, Poland makes about 30,000 155mm artillery shells a year. The goal with these new plants is to produce up to 180,000 shells a year. That's a six-fold increase. Within just a few years, they plan to be completely self-sufficient, able to feed their massive new military force without asking anyone for help. This move alone makes Poland a strategic player because they could become the arsenal for the entire eastern side of NATO in a crisis. But it's not just about shells. They are also building their own high-tech air defense systems. While they are buying the top-tier American Patriot missile system for long-range threats, they are also developing their own system called NERU for shorter-range defense. And they are doing it in a very clever way. They recently signed a $1.6 billion contract for special passive radar systems. Unlike normal radar that sends out a signal that can be detected and targeted, these passive systems are invisible. They work by listening for electronic signals, making them much harder for an enemy to find and destroy. NATO now operates the Aegis Ashore Missile Defense Complex at Redzikowo, run by the U.S. Navy. Moscow has singled it out as a prime target, proof of how central Poland has become in Washington's military strategy for Europe. This shows they're not just buying muscle, they're investing in brains, preparing for a sophisticated, modern war. Of course, all this high-tech equipment, from tanks to radar, is useless without one key ingredient: soldiers. And Poland's plan for its people is just as ambitious as its plan for its machines. A powerful army needs more than just tanks and jets. It needs people. Poland's goal is to build one of the largest and best-trained land forces in the Western world. To do this, they passed a new law in 2022 called the Homeland Defense Act. The main goal of this law is to grow the Polish military to 300,000 active-duty soldiers. That's a huge number, more than double what they had just a few years ago. If they reach this goal, Poland's army will be the largest in the European Union, bigger than that of France or Germany, and they are well on their way. The number of professional soldiers has already grown to over 216,000, making it the third largest in all of NATO, behind only the massive militaries of the United States and Turkey. But the plan goes even deeper than that. The government knows that in a major conflict, the professional army is only the first line of defense. So they are creating a new system of voluntary military service to build a massive pool of trained reservists. Think of it like the system in Switzerland or Finland, where a large part of the population is ready to be called up if needed. The government has announced plans to train 100,000 regular citizens by 2027. Some officials have even talked about having a reserve force of up to 500,000 people. The goal is clear: to create a total defense posture where the entire nation is prepared to defend itself. This is a country putting itself on a war footing in peacetime, a sight not seen in Europe for generations. At the same time, polls show that most Americans would support sending U.S. troops if a NATO ally like Poland were attacked. That political backing gives Washington confidence that its commitments to NATO's eastern flank remain strong at home. This raises the final critical question. An army this big with equipment this advanced costs a fortune. Can Poland actually afford its own iron shield? Here's the sobering truth. Building an army of this size comes with a staggering price tag, and it's putting Poland's entire economy on the line. To pay for all these new tanks, jets, and soldiers, the government's budget deficit is exploding. We're talking nearly 7% of their entire economy. That's more than double the strict limit set by the European Union. Their national debt is climbing, and the big credit rating agencies, the ones that tell the world if a country's finances are healthy, are sounding the alarm. To put it simply, Poland is maxing out all its credit cards and breaking every single economic rule in the book. But this is where the story takes a truly shocking turn. While economists are waving red flags, nobody in Poland seems to care. Truth be told, the Polish people are overwhelmingly behind this military buildup. Poll after poll shows the same incredible result. Over 75% of the population believes the country must arm itself, no matter how much it costs. This isn't just a government policy, it's a national mission. This feeling is born from a painful history of being caught between powerful neighbors and the very real, very raw fear they see unfolding just across the border in Ukraine. This incredible public support has created something almost unheard of in politics today: total unity. The law that kicked off this entire process, the Homeland Defense Act, was passed with almost every single politician from every party voting yes. Even after a bitter election that saw the government change hands, the new leaders came in and promised not to cancel a single military contract. U.S. strategists, meanwhile, see Poland's gamble as a net positive. They argue that a stronger Polish military reduces the burden on American forces in Europe and strengthens deterrence without requiring Washington to send even more troops abroad. As the new Prime Minister Donald Tusk put it in the most famous quote of the year, "You can't defend your border with a small deficit. You defend it with a large, modern army." And that's the bottom line. Poland has made a calculated high-stakes gamble. They are betting their economic future on their security. They firmly believe that the price of not being prepared for a fight is infinitely higher than the cost of a few years of bad budgets. And by making this choice, they are changing the face of Europe forever. The continent's center of power is no longer in Paris or Berlin. It's shifting east to Warsaw. Poland is no longer just another member of NATO. It is becoming its iron shield. For the United States, that shield is just as important. Poland's rise means NATO's eastern flank is stronger, deterrence is sharper, and American soldiers already stationed there have a fortified line to stand behind. Washington may be half a world away, but its security commitments run straight through Warsaw. Poland is reshaping Europe's balance of power, and the price is staggering. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me, could Poland's military rise protect the continent or drag it into the next great war?